You go.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm calling the Board of Health meeting to order at 9:33 a.m. on July 18th, 2023. This is a Zoom meeting only, and all board members are present. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all having a nice summer so far. The first order of business is public comment. We don't have any public, so we'll move on. Approval of minutes from the 6/20/23 meeting. And I circulated a few changes last night, and I think there might be a few more changes as well. I'm just pulling them up now. Okay, so Heather had one change under the let's see, under the food code section, and the change is that we've achieved 1 as of the time of this meeting, not 2. So if we can update that. Barbara, do you see where that is?
Yep, all set.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Liz, did you have some changes?
I just am doing like a name edit with Barbara. I just sent her an email about it earlier. But that was it.
Okay, so I just want to vote so that everybody knows what the changes were. So can you just elaborate on them?
I was listed as Miss Zulik and I just changed it to be, I think, Dr. Zulik.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Safdar, are you good with those amendments? Okay. So I'm going to move that we approve the meeting minutes from 6/20/23 as amended this morning.
I second the motion. Vote aye.
Vote aye.
Okay, Malinowski is aye. All right, thank you. All right, next is Health Department quarterly reporting numbers.
I asked to put this on because I don't know if you remember, I used to print these, well, you can't see them, but our Safdar and Chelsea would remember, we did sort of a reporting of activities that I collected weekly, and then I reported out quarterly. I did not, I think I last reported them in January. I didn't report them in April, sort of we were in transition, and then July yet I haven't reported them. I still have them, and I was just trying to think what was valuable information and what was sort of a more efficient way to capture it. So I think that some of these numbers we report out annually. So in the annual report, we'll put in there kind of total number of some of the applications and permits and inspections done. Certainly not all the data, but I think that the data that can be captured annually, we should probably not be targeting weekly, you know, through our charting system. I think the other question is, right, do you want me to keep the data, keep reporting it quarterly? The types of things that we're capturing, Liz, for things that you may not be aware of, we do a really comprehensive look at septic, and I think that some of Dennis's work is not captured otherwise in terms of number of plans he signs off of, number of installations inspectors, and that some of that is like the phone call consultations he does, and in-person folks come in the office really for kind of extensive conversations, I would say. So some of that was not captured. So personally, I think that he's happy doing that weekly reporting that we could stick with. But for the other ones, you know, food inspection, housing inspections, the other inspections with camp pools, nuisance, tobacco, you know, we don't necessarily have to report those out because we report those out annually. There's also communicable disease investigations, which can be searched and reported annually. The other one is the general one for phone call inquiries, which I just think is sort of a general term that was a little bit hard to track because someone might call the office for something not related to us, but just call us. Someone might, you know, call Dennis directly. Someone might call Barbara, then get sent to Dennis, you know, so I don't know if the numbers are exactly pertinent per se. So I would personally think about not tracking that as something not tracked. And then, what things does the board have interest in tracking? And for what purpose?
So I agree. I don't think we should track phone calls. I think, we're past the, hopefully, COVID influx, I would say, of what Barbara was kind of fielding for us.
Yeah, I mean, we get
and
still
Barbara,
an influx
feel
of
free to-
septic. Yep, we still get an influx of septic.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, Barbara, feel free to weigh in here because you're the one that's kind of our
Oh, she
front
might be on
line.
the phones. Funny thing, she might be on the phone right now.
Okay.
On a phone call.
So we'll go back to her when she gets off the phone, but I mean, I'm inclined to not do that. I think that's just an administrative burden for
Yeah.
her to continue to
I
do that.
agree.
One of the
When
other
she
board
gets off the phone, she can definitely speak for herself, but I know that it is not something that she feels is, easy to do.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, does any other board member feel that they want to see that? Okay. All right. So then maybe if that's the consensus and she's good with it, then that's fine.
She will be.
In terms of, and I think we'll talk about this later on in the payroll conversation, but in terms of what Dennis is doing, I think the yearly reporting of the number of septics as part of the annual report is probably appropriate. He logs his time based on activity that we can certainly get a copy of every other week. So rather than duplicating the payroll report and then also a daily activity or weekly activity for routine stuff, I would say let's not add that burden, especially with Heather reducing her hours this year. I don't want her to be the gatekeeper of stats.
Mhm.
I'd rather her work on more initiatives and projects rather than collecting data from kind of other employees and tying them up. So I don't know what.
Right. I mean, we
Lisa.
won't get numbers on, how many, residents and engineers he's working with. I mean, he does put down, he spends time he reviews plans for building. That's the most frequent one, sometimes for conservation.
Yeah.
So we'll get that, not by numbers. Like I said, the sort of guidance we won't get, but it's okay by me if it's okay by you. We just won't capture that piece, but I don't think it's critical.
Liz or Safdar, do you have an opinion? Or do you feel strongly about Dennis doing that?
I don't feel strongly at all. I mean, I think what Heather said makes sense. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. All right.
Just a clarification question on communicable diseases, like how in depth do we want to get? Do we want to only do yearly for certain things? Do you want me to do it for each individual disease? Like what is?
I mean,
opinion?
should we review how we have it now?
So Taylor, in terms of, I mean, I guess what would your recommendation be? Because you're the one that's doing it. Like, what do you think is important for us to see? And what we don't want to do is waste your time, right? So I would ask you like what you think is reasonable and what we should say.
Honestly, I'm fine doing it yearly. If I did it yearly, it'll probably take me an hour to pull all the stats.
Okay.
Which is not a huge lift for a whole year's worth of data. I guess my question more is like, do we want to separate it out by like disease, or do you want to just say this year, like our nurse managed 600 cases of all different types of communicable diseases?
Well, right now we have it by foodborne. We have a different one by tick-borne. We have other
That's
communicable
right. Yeah.
diseases.
Do you want me to
Right.
lump it together, or do you want me to do it by individual?
So when you run your report to pull it together, does it break it out for you based on category
I
already?
can do it that way, or I can do it like all diseases at once. So if I did it like one at a time, obviously it takes longer, but that would be like, it would be an hour versus like a 3-minute report. I'm fine either way. I was just curious to know what the board's opinion of what like the town would want to see.
I think separating, sorry, Chelsea, I think separating, I think the town would like to see, like flu burden versus Lyme burden versus,
Agreed.
And
you
I'm
know,
fine with that.
yeah, I think that would definitely make sense for people to see that. I think
Okay, cool. We'll do that then. And then, same thing, do we want to list out like camp inspections, pool inspections, those type of things? I mean, again,
Annual.
not a heavy lift. Like, I can tell you right now, I do 3 pool inspections a year and I do 6 to 10 camp inspections a year. Like, it's not going to change drastically. So,
Yeah, I think breaking it out for that
Okay.
too.
yeah, sounds good.
So additionally, Taylor, I think on your bi-weekly kind of update, if there's something unique that
Yeah.
you run into, just give us an update on that. But if it's like, if you see an uptick in Lyme disease or something like that, they to run the report at that time. But just if you start to see trends that you think we should know,
Cool.
that'd be great.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem. So like for this week, for example, I'll put that we had a foodborne illness case and a tick investigation. Okay.
Okay, right on your, right. On your.
And that will come directly from you, like what, because I know like
Yeah.
you guys are kind of on different schedules now. So feel
Right.
free to just send it
Right.
for your own when you're prepared
Yep.
to. Okay.
That's good.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on
You wanna
the
just-
reporting?
It looks like Barbara might be back on if you want to
Okay.
just get back to her.
There she is.
So Barbara, we just briefly discussed getting rid of you reporting phone call volume inquiries. Just wanted to make sure you didn't think that we were gonna miss something by not having you do that anymore.
You don't miss anything. Don't worry.
Okay. Okay. All right. So good decision made on that one. Thank
I
you.
didn't want to speak for you, Barbara, but I figured you'd be happy about that.
Thank you very much. Mhm.
All right.
Yeah, I
Next
brought it.
is appoint Scott Moles as backup inspector via Greater Borough. So Scott Moles is currently the health director in Holliston. And I had reached out to him. I think I told you at the last meeting, I was trying to get somebody to help us back us up when Dennis is on vacation. And this would not be for him to do the 19 and a half hours. It's really if we have something that is needed. Dennis does a fabulous job of notifying all the companies when he's in the builders, when he's going to be out. So trying to get ahead of it so that things don't come up when he's gone. However, he can be out for more than a week when he is away. So I reached out to Scott to see if he'd be interested, and it turns out he actually is already a part-time employee of Northborough, which works out well for us because I was able to talk to Kristen Black about being able to use some of the PHE grant to cover his time through Northborough when we need a backup. So it will actually be funded through the PHE grant. So it makes the paperwork a lot easier for us. And then he doesn't have to, he's already insured under Northborough and he wouldn't have to get his own insurance to cover for us. So it's actually, so Scott was really happy with that arrangement. So we just need to appoint him to be able to act on our behalf. But he's already set up on Northborough's payroll. So we don't actually have to do a contract with him. So I thought it sounded like a good arrangement. He was happy with it. Kristen was happy to help us out and put in for, the approval to be able to use the PHE for that. So I have his resume that I can send to you guys. But he does everything under the sun related to septic for Holliston. So even if we needed a site plan review, which I don't anticipate that we would, but if we did, he could certainly do that too. So I think this is a good solution for us in the interim. Any questions? All right, so I move, and I think this will probably have to do, I think we'll have to do a yearly, maybe not. I gotta check to see if it's a yearly appointment or not, but it will at least do it for this year and then I'll find out if we have to extend it. So I move that we appoint Scott Moles as a backup inspector via the Greater Boroughs for FY24.
Okay, I second the motion and vote aye.
Zulik, aye. That's how you always say it. Chelsea.
I know, Paladin, yeah. It's hard on Zoom to like flip back and forth to like in person and like know what you call yourself. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. All right. FY23 budget to actual. So Carla was nice enough to run our budget to actual for us. So overall, we had a good year. We're turning back like almost $19,000. I mean, part of that is we got to use ARPA money to offset part of Heather's salary, and then there were some other grants that we were able to use to offset Heather's in specifically. We didn't need as much backup as what we had budgeted for septic. So we had Bill Murphy on standby when Dennis was away last year. And I think we had maybe 10 hours. Does that sound right, Heather? For backup? I think something like that.
It wasn't a lot, I think.
No,
The
it
most
wasn't.
one week was 8, and then,
Okay. So again, Dennis does a nice job of like making sure that we don't need to go to the bench, but
right. So if
yeah,
he's gone a week, I don't think that would be extremely rare, but right, if it's that 2 to 3 weeks.
Yep. So overall, we did a pretty nice job. I think there were some things that came up throughout the year for some trainings that we were able to do this year, which we hadn't been able to do prior. Right, Taylor? And I also think that Greater Boroughs helped with some of the training money this year. So that was
I had 2 FDA grants. So one of them is a quote training grant. So that was 1,800. That was almost all for me for a lot of training that I did was through that FDA.
okay. So, and just a reminder, and Liz, you probably don't know this, but for the PHE grant, you risk losing your funding if you reduce your health department budget. So that's something that we really need to make sure we maintain so that we don't lose the $300,000 that we share with the boroughs. So they don't want you to take the borough's money and supplant it with your town's operating budget. So, anyway, so that's kind of the overall picture. And I just wanted to let the board know that as part of transitioning Heather from full-time to part-time, there was a cash out of her vacation. So that was able to be covered in the full-time salaries because of some of the other grants that we used instead of using the operating budget. So we did not go over budget, but you will see a higher payroll amount in June for that payout. I did check with the town accountant. Normally when that happens, somebody's retiring and there's a warrant article for that that's funded every year. But because this is not a retirement, it came out of the department's budget. Okay, so any questions on that? That's just kind of high level. I gave you the detail in case you wanted to look at it. But I want to make sure that we're always in line with the budget. I take that very seriously. That's I think it's important that when we budget for next year that we look at where we landed this year. So I just want to make sure that the board's aware of where we're at. So no votes on that. Okay, opioid settlement funds. So select board voted last week to not do a fall town meeting. So that's unfortunate, I think, for a few reasons. But that means that we will not have the ability to appropriate the funds until March, which will be annual town meeting. We're not ready to spend the money yet, at least from the school program side on what Mary Ellen, Kristen Black, and Taylor are looking at. So I think that's still in process. And we still need to check in with Youth and Family Services on anything that they're looking to do. So I'm hoping that the state's going to change their rules and will allow you to spend it without having to go to town meeting to appropriate it, but that still hasn't happened yet. I think that's on Governor Healy's list. So more to come on that, but I just wanted to let you know that there will not be a fall town meeting for us to appropriate it. And I think Taylor will keep us up to speed as they continue to work through any programs that may be available for Melican and Trotter. That's kind of the areas that they're targeting, which I think would be great. So more to come on that.
Do we, obviously then that would delay it till March, right? Till annual town meeting, right? So unless
Yeah.
something changes. So has Northborough approved their use of their funds? They have, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So
They did. So we're also, we also should hear though in August on the drug-free communities that was applied for. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to figure it out with Northborough. And I mean, the good thing about doing it in March is you're not then waiting till July at least, right? So it doesn't sound like we picked a program yet. So I don't know what I realistically don't know, even if we did it in October, if we would be able to spend it before March. I just don't know, Safdar, like the timing of where we're at. So, you know.
no, I think that makes sense. I was just curious to know like if they had something like where would that, but yeah, I mean, I think it drug-free community grant is going to be huge. Like if that happens and that can be used for that, we can look at how best to spend the opioid funds, knowing that we have that as well. So.
Right. I'm hoping we get that. So hopefully, I don't know when in August we'll find that out, but hopefully we'll have it for our August meeting to know.
Yeah, I think it's soon, right, Heather? Because you helped Kristen with that, right? So.
The August meeting for Encompass.
Yeah, I think we should know by then, right? Which would be the first week of August. So maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we know the first week in August. Yeah.
Okay. Collins Center best practice interviews. So I just wanted to review the list that I have not sent it to Collins Center yet, because I wanted to make sure that you guys agreed with who will be interviewed as part of that. So public health staff, town administrator, youth and family services director, fire chief, senior center director, school wellness coordinator, food pantry coordinator, and then the board members here. So that was the list. Heather had suggested the library director and the rec director. I think at this juncture, though, I would just say if she has time, I think she's going to have a lot of interviews to conduct, and I just not sure that the value add there is going to be worth it. I just don't think there's as much overlap as like with youth and family and senior center. So that's kind of my take. I just want to make sure that we're like honing in on what's going to be the most productive for them to interview people.
One question that I have is, in your meetings, have you talked about like what her ideal number of people is? Like, I'm just curious if even the list that we have is a little too in detail, like thinking about what's going to add value and not like, you know, for lack of a better word, kind of waste her time, you know, like what's going to give her the most insight to what we do day to day.
So I think she just wanted the universe, and then she'll probably come back. So she has not capped it.
Okay, so she's going to take everything into consideration and then make her own decision. Okay, all right, cool. Just want to clarify.
And you know, and I don't know that every board member in every town is going to get interviewed.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I just don't know, like if how much value. You know, I'll put it on the list, and then she's going to have to figure out like how much they can handle from an interview perspective. I mean, the other one that I really want them to interview is DPH. So obviously that's not a town interview, but that's I think that's an important one in the overall scheme of things. So I would rather just give like, here's kind of the max that I would like to see. And I just, I'm not sure, like, going to the other department heads. I mean, I think like the sunscreen that you did with rec was great, but you can talk to them about that. Like, it doesn't have
But
to come
wouldn't
from
add
rec.
value to, yeah.
Yeah, and like, we're doing classes at the library. We're using their space, which is great.
Right.
But we can tell them that. So, but I think, from a senior center perspective, and I debated putting Pam and Cindy on,
Leslie.
and Leslie, but I think we just need to have one
Yeah.
the senior center rather than giving them 3, and then they probably have a lot of repeat information.
Yep.
Anyone else that think I missed an obvious one?
But I think from DPH, Cassandra Anderson would probably be willing to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. So Morgan's working on coordinating that. I think Kristen's helping her with that part. And I think from a Greater Boroughs perspective, she's going to allocate more time with Kristen because Kristen's the administrator of the grant and there's a lot to understand with that. So I think that makes a lot of sense for her to just, rather than take up one of our group meetings, she's just going to meet one-on-one with her to understand all the ins and outs of that.
And when are they doing interviews?
I don't
When
know.
is
I have to
she?
get
It's
the
not
list
that
by
she-
the end of
yeah.
July. Yeah. So I figured I'd wait and talk to you guys before I sent it. Good. All right. And I think they're going to aim to do it on Zoom. So it should be easier for everybody's schedules. All right. Okay. Approval of payroll. Okay. So we have 2 contracts and then we have 2 SAP employees, right? So Heather and Dennis are on contract and then Taylor and Barbara are on the SAP. So right now, and Barbara, you can keep me honest here. Barbara essentially gathers all the information and says to Taylor, okay, so you were out on Monday, so I'm putting in your vacation and you were here the rest of the week. And okay, here you go, Heather, you sign it.
Yep.
That's essentially what happens, right?
Yep.
So I think with me being a control freak on the budget and wanting to have a better pulse on, I think that I would like one of us, I'm happy to do it, or if anybody else feels strongly, actually sign off on payroll on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, sorry. So I've talked to Carla about this. Go ahead. Did I miss something?
No, I just said bi-weekly, but you said.
Yeah, bi-weekly. So with having 2 part-time employees, I want to make sure that we stay within our hours for not trumping somebody to flip to full-time. That's one of my concerns is once you go over 19 and a half hours, so many weeks, then that trips you into full-time. So I want to make sure that we're living within our bounds of what we committed to town meeting. And I think it's unfair for us to put Barbara in a position where she is essentially putting together somebody's payroll that does her review. I think it should be at the board level to approve that and not put her in that position. So after the sorry, I'm losing my I can't think of the right word. After the payout for vacation, I honestly did not think about that flipping an employee and was not aware of it until after the fact. So I would like to have the board be more involved in checking payroll. Anybody have any objections to that or want to do it?
I think it's a good idea. It makes sense. If you need help with oversight, I'm happy to
Okay.
do it. I mean, it's just tracking. It'll be confirming hours and basically keeping a tracking list to ensure that we are, every week just entering an Excel sheet of sorts, right?
Yeah,
we
so
are
Barbara
sure
would still send it to me.
Yeah.
she'd still like prepare it, but I would be the approver rather than Heather signing off on it. And
Yeah.
then that saves Heather time. I mean, I don't think we need to be having our department head who's part-time now, spending time signing
Well,
off.
and also if, I mean, we send it to you for approval, the sheet that I fill out, I mean, if I'm filling out, someone else should be looking it over, you know, the one, like when I
Yeah.
track my hours.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it makes sense. There needs to be another level of oversight just to, so I think
Yeah.
that makes sense. And yeah, if you want me to, if you need help doing it or want me to do it,
Okay.
let me know, Chelsea.
So I think what we can do is you could be the backup for
Okay.
me if I'm not available. And then we can do, I'm pretty sure we can do it that way. I think Carla's out now. But once we approve the process, there's a form that we have to sign. So we can just indicate that, Liz, on the form. And I am one of the representatives on the school committee that does this for school committee too. So Roger Challen and I duly sign it, but there's 5 of us. So I think for this size of a department, just having one every other week sign it makes sense. But the more I thought about like the process that we have, I'm like, I think we need to have check and balance in place.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I move that Ms. Malinowski be the approver for payroll and Dr. Zulik be the backup.
And I will second and vote aye.
Zulik, aye.
Okay, Malinowski, aye.
Thank you for doing that. It's just, I have a lot and that's sort of one of my weak spots is getting administrative things done. So I'll be very honest in a timely manner. So I thank you, Elizabeth and Chelsea for taking that on.
No problem. I'm happy to do it. I love the finance part, so. All right. Upcoming meeting schedule. So I think we have August
15.
15th.
Yeah, August 15th and September 12th.
August 15th and September 12th. Okay. Do those all work for you guys still?
I won't be here in August, but
Right.
that doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, it
August-
does matter, but
August
think-
15th is Zoom, right? Sorry, August 15th is Zoom, right? Only?
Yeah. yeah. And then do you want, so Liz, you could do in person on the 12th, on September 12th or no?
I should be able to.
Okay, so do you want to do that and then we can decide what we're going to start to do in October? Because I think your schedule's changing then.
Yeah, I go back to work, I think, on the 13th, so the day after.
Okay. Okay,
And then, you know, it looks like I can keep that time. It's just possible that I will not be, like, I'll have to call in depending on traffic. So if this time like works for everyone, we don't need to change it. Just know that I will
Okay.
never be able to meet in person at that time.
Fine.
And I'll have to and I will be in the office some days, but if there's bad traffic, I might be on the phone for the beginning.
that's fine.
So
And,
if you want to keep that
Barbara
timing,
can-
that's fine.
Mhm.
Barbara always sets up the owl when we're in person anyways. So that should be totally fine. That's totally fine. I mean, there isn't another day that's better for you to meet in person, or there is.
Wednesdays and Fridays are easier for me to meet in person.
Okay. So maybe what we do, well, Safdar, you can't even zoom in on Wednesdays and Fridays,
We
right?
could potentially Zoom in. Wednesdays are a little tricky. It would have to be a little earlier. And I know that may not work for you because of kids drop off and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because Wednesdays I start, I mean, I don't have clinical duties, but I have a lot of admin stuff that starts for work at 9 typically on Wednesdays. So then I'm
Okay.
really, booked from 9 o'clock onwards. So,
Okay.
and Fridays is all clinical duties.
Okay.
So.
All right. So let's just
Really
let's
early.
just stick with this. We can always do a night meeting too. If
Mhm.
I don't know if that would work for you, Liz, though.
I don't know.
No, nights are fine. I mean, it's like a 7 o'clock start is fine for me. I mean, that's when
Okay.
the Conservation Commission meetings are, that's when the library meetings are.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's just keep the August and September, and then once you kind of get back into your routine, we'll see what works.
Is it usually the second Tuesday of the month? Is that
We
what it
try
is?
to do that.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm just gonna block just, the rest of the year. just
Actually,
so I
we can
get
do
my
our
work calendar.
we can do our October date now if you want. We usually do the second or third Tuesday. So we could do October 10th or October 17th.
Either of those work for me.
Just gonna check my calendar really quickly,
Go
just to make sure, because I don't want to commit and then realize I had something else that day.
That's fine.
But the evenings would work well for me too. You know, so I could easily do evenings as well, if that
Okay.
works moving forward.
That's fine with, I mean, we can definitely do that. Is there, I mean, we can try that for our October meeting if you want.
Yeah, we could do October, because I know, Chelsea, you'll have school committee meetings on Wednesdays, right? So you don't want
Right.
to do Wednesdays, but I mean, any evening works for me, so.
Okay, Liz, when's Concom usually?
The third, it's Thursday nights, but it's every third Thursday. It's not like once a month. It's just every 3 weeks. So it's harder to plan
Oh,
around
okay.
that.
So I mean, we would just have to, so if we did Monday nights, we'd have to work around planning. Tuesday nights, we'd have to work around select board. So
I don't know if our staff would be favored to always have evening meetings.
I
once a
don't
month?
mind. I would just have to
Okay.
use comp time the next day or something. Because there is no overtime, so
Right.
I'd adjust.
I think if we did, I don't know if this makes a difference for you, Barbara, or not, but Tuesday nights, most of the staff is late anyways.
Right.
Oh, hell yes, yep.
But
Uh-huh.
what
Today,
time are you there till, Barbara?
7.
7?
Yep.
I mean, we try to keep it to an hour. So if we did 7, then it's an, you know, Barbara, I can talk to you about
Yeah.
that.
That's fine.
Taylor, do Tuesday nights work for you?
Yeah, I would probably just be running in from the gym, so I wouldn't be like dressed nice, but as long as nobody's opposed to that, I'd be
You mean you
fine.
look like I do right now? You have to see when I start, you see me on my way to work, you're like, oh, she looks completely different. Her hair is done and she has makeup on. Like she looks like a human.
Okay, so let's aim for Tuesday nights. So
That'll work for me.
yeah, okay. So how about they're usually select board's usually first and third, so maybe we could, Barbara, can you check to see if the room's available on October 10th?
If they, sometimes they don't let you book that far ahead, but let's see.
Okay,
And you said October, right?
yeah.
I don't see anything booked yet in October.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll just have to follow up if that date's not available, but does that so far work for everyone?
So pencil in the 10th at 7 p.m.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And we could even do every other month we do a night one, you know, like we can be flexible,
Reasonable.
you know? Okay, and yeah, then I avoid school committee staff nurse, so that's good. Okay. All right. That was our longest topic.
I think, hang on 1 second. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to check my hospital job, but I'm good that day.
Okay. All right, awesome. Anything else you guys have for today? All right, no public is in the audience. And if you have anything for the August meeting, if you just want to email Barbara so she can add it to the agenda, that would be great. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to move that the Board of Health adjourn at 10:12 a.m.
I second and vote aye.
Look, I.
Malinowski, aye. Have a great rest of the day. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
You're being a little nudge. Okay.